Alrighty, welcome back to part 3 of day 29 of From Day 1. Regardless what it said on the meter from the emergency episode we recorded, it is now actually part 3. Art Bell and his interviewee, Dr. David Jacobs. Alien experimentation on humans is along with us for the ride, so I will let them get started while we get started in Dominion.
Midnight in the desert doesn't screen calls. We trust you, but remember, the NSA, well, you know, to call the show, please dial 1-952-225-5278. That's 1-952-CALL ART.
All right, we are going to open the lines now. That number again, the national number, area code 952-225-5278. Oh, by the way, some news that's breaking across some parts of the internet that Putin have made a veiled nuclear threat against the Islamic Nation. That would not be good. We have other lines that you can use. You can, of course, come to us on Skype. I'd love to have you do that. And I think most of you by now know how to use Skype, right? We are MITD51 for North America, Canada, and America. And outside of North America, we are MITD55. That's MITD55. Other lines you can use if you are so inclined. We have a first-time caller line, area code 775-285-5800. Easy enough. If you've never called the show, we kind of reserve that away for people who are new. Area code 775-285-5800. Roswell is an avenue you can also enter into. I'm going to give you that number now. It routes through Roswell, New Mexico. Kind of appropriate, I think, right? Area code 575-208-7787. Again, area code 575-208-7787. My guest is Dr. David Jacobs, and what he's saying is nothing less than startling. And I want to talk just for a moment about the change. Doctor, the world surely is in difficult straits right now. There's no question about that. There's always the possibility that we will somehow destroy ourselves. It's always looming, it seems, over our heads. I wonder if such an event were pending or likely, that you believe that they would use what they already have in place, these hybrids, and they would simply project changes to our minds to stop it all and perhaps hurry their agenda along, whatever in God's name that is.
Well, once again, these are hypothetical questions that are really tough to know. I don't know if they have any knowledge of the politics of the society or the international politics of the society, of the world rather. I don't. From what I can gather, they have no knowledge of the name of the country that they're living in. They have to be told that. I mean, the level of knowledge that hybrids have is extremely small. What's going on in the insect-like ones and the insectoids' minds, that I don't know. My guess is that if they can just hold out and we don't destroy ourselves in the meantime, that we will be working. They will be, in fact, in control of governmental activities.
Sure. In other words, if they have the ability to control our thoughts, control our actions, then they could either, I suppose, propel us towards something awful, although one cannot imagine what earthly reason they would have for doing that. I would think that they would propel us toward, their own, whatever their goals are.
Yeah, it's also certainly possible that as second-class species, we would be living under the control of these aliens and not our own own governments anymore, that control would shift. But who knows? I do not understand. And I don't really know what the change is either. And it's something that so many people have talked to me about. Nobody knows. The change could be the change of ownership of the planet. So
yeah, exactly. The change of ownership of the planet. What better way to take over a planet than what we've been talking about tonight? You don't need the big guns. You don't need the big anything. You just slowly substitute us for them, and I refer to the hybrids, until there are sufficient numbers of them to simply accomplish what they want to accomplish. Boom.
Exactly right. Now, there have been disturbing things about this that I've heard for years and years, and I could never quite figure out how or why or what, but this certainly might play a part in it. People have been told sometimes that in the future you're going to have a task. In the future you'll know when the task, you have to do the task, and they will tell them sometimes what the task is. And a lot of people have told me this off-the-wall story, that they will be standing on a sidewalk while a group of angry or disturbed or confused or frightened humans are running down the street. And their job is to manage crowd control, is to say everything is okay, everything is fine, just keep moving in this direction, just keep moving in this direction. And in one of these accounts that I heard, they were all moving towards a flying saucer, a UFO, a space traveling vehicle. And that was one of the more disturbing ones that I heard. But that's one of the most common things that I hear from people, and it's such an odd thing to say. You know, if you're trying to make something up, that just wouldn't be. How would you even think of something like that would be your job later on? You know, you think a job would be something like the protecting, or something like protecting aliens, or helping the aliens out with their procedures, or whatever it is.
Okay, Doctor, I really, really, really want to go to the phones, but one more question for you, and then we will. And that is there among aliens, a lot of people wonder this, is there a pecking order? Is there a hierarchy?
Yes, the insect-like ones are at the top. When they first came, they had to have beings with them who would go down and get people, because they don't go down and abduct people. So they brought a small workforce with them of other aliens who I think are the reptilians, the reptilian ones. Then, after they got eggs and sperm and all the rest of the stuff, they created the gray aliens. So they're next on the pecking order, probably with the reptilians. And then comes the various hybrids. Now, it's not that authority flows downward, and people have lower statuses. It's just that they have different tasks. They have different jobs. They're literally built to do different things.
Well, do you believe that they're cooperative with each other, or toward a common goal, meaning us, or do you think there are differences among them as there are differences among nations here on Earth?
No, there are different. For example, gray aliens sometimes will get into a discussion about doing a specific procedure. Most of the time, they just do it. But sometimes there's a question of if they should do it or not. That might be the only disharmony that I've seen. Most of them just do what they're supposed to do, and they do it 24/7. Yeah. There's no indication that they sleep. Hybrids, the more they become human, the more they differ, the more they can get sometimes into little arguments and things like that. But they're still all under control, and it really is a different species, and so the pecking order isn't exactly the way you would think of it. It's just that everybody knows their place.
Okay. All right. Let's go outside the country. Johnny, you're on the air.
Good evening, gentlemen. Dr. Jacobs, I understand that because you've done this research over many, many years, over so many subjects that you've come across, you've got like a video recorder of events that seems to be recorded by all walks of life from all cultures. And so my question is, with that so much data and storage of information, have you been able to pass this information on as a sense of intelligence, to be able to share it with other people that can somehow decipher, do we have an age of what age group they're coming to? Are they going to be like troopers? Things like this. And my other question was that in the Bible, it mentions that there will be indemnity between them.
Johnny, those are very different questions. Hold on. Let's get the answer to number one.
Well, the first one is there anybody in the scientific, academic, or governmental communities who is interested in this subject? There are a few people, not in the numbers that it would take to really tackle the subject. And in most countries, there's nothing. And most UFO organizations in other countries focus on the outside shells of objects. They focus on people seeing UFOs and not on the abduction phenomenon. In other words, not what's going on inside the objects. Even though there are people who say that they've been abducted in countries around the world. In terms of the federal government, I don't know, but my guess is that nobody cares whatsoever about this subject. My sense is that you have to have a group of scientists of very, very serious quality, serious, big-time scientists, internationally known Nobel winners and all the rest of that, who sign a letter saying that this needs to be studied by the government. And maybe that would push people off the dime a little bit. But it is so off the wall. It's so crazy. It's so unlikely, and it's all done in secret, and people don't know that they're abductees, and then they suddenly do know it, and this and that.
But my question, Dr. Jacobs, is with the subjects and all these subjects that you have, are any of those prepared to come forward and disclose so that we can watch and hear these hypnotic regressions and hear what these people are saying, so that the public can make up their own mind, and maybe between us we can use intelligence in that way to maybe come to some other understanding. But to go back to my other question, Dr. Jacobs, it was regarding, in the Bible it mentions an indemnity that would be put between them and us, and I assume it's in the spirit, in the life force, which I believe is where God resides with us. When we die on the earth as a bit of meat, or back to the dust, as they say. But the spirit is a continuum, and I believe that is the breath of life of God for my personal saviour. But for you, sir, I ask you, do you have a spiritual belief that this is some sort of spiritual battle to come? What is your personal value on it? Do you believe in some saviour for yourself, a God for your family?
Well, in terms of the abduction phenomenon and the aliens, I don't see them as being spiritual people in any way, shape, or form, or understanding even what that is. They don't seem to have anything that has to do with intellectualism and emotion.
That's really going to scare people to suggest that they have no spiritual center whatsoever really scares people.
That's right. Now, the ones who are hybrids, who are moving in, have the apparatus to be that way, I think. I don't think it's going to work on them. I don't think they will become religious or spiritual or anything. But they become more human-like after they're here for a while. And therefore they have a tendency to be kinder, to be more. It's hard to explain this. To have more of
empathy,
an emotional sense, at least.
All right. I want to make an appeal right now, and that is, most of you heard or will hear on repeat the letter I read from the nurse about this lady whose kid has disappeared. 10-week fetus just flat disappeared. Now, I understand that there are privacy issues. I understand, as I mentioned to you, we're talking to her. We're trying to get permission from the patient, but it's not an easy thing to do. People don't want to talk about this. It's the last thing in the world they want to talk about. But I am making an appeal. If you're a healthcare worker who has experienced this, much as the doctor talked about it earlier, remember that? That might not be all that common, or it might be, I don't know. But if you've lost a fetus in that area, and you said it was between, or around 10 weeks, but between what and what, doctor?
I'm going to say between 9 and 12, just to give it a span.
All right, I would like contact. I really would. The only way to move forward with this and to gather proof is if all of you help. And so if you have experienced something like this, either as a healthcare worker or as an experiencer, please get hold of me. I am KNYE at knye.com. Let me give that again. KNYE. That's Kilowatt Nancy Yokohama Easy. People get dyslexic with it. Don't do that. It's KNYE at knye.com. I would really, 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 or you know what else? Artbell at knye.com. Either one of those two email addresses will get to me. So either healthcare workers or women who are willing to discuss this. I think it's time. If this is real, we've got to begin building proof. And I guess that's where you begin. Have you thought about how to build proof, doctor?
You know, the proof is a tough one. Proof is ultimately getting a film in some way, following an abductee around, seeing when that abductee hooks up with a known hybrid,
yes,
and filming them with from various different angles with different people who have no knowledge of this abductee but who are wearing wires near them. And because when they're in public, they talk out loud. Otherwise, it would draw attention to themselves. So, the worst, the best way is to just bug people's homes with videos and have their permission, and see what happens in the middle of the night, or when people aren't around, when if they're living in, if they don't work, what happens to them during the day and all that.
Sure.
And there's ethical problems here. There's
non-ethical problems. I know that. I know.
Problem. The main thing is.
Listen, I talked to this nurse, and she said, "Oh no, I would lose my livelihood, my license. It would be gone instantly." So we simply asked her, next time this lady comes in, this particular case, would you please have her contact us? Now, the odds are probably pretty low of that, but it's worth a shot. Real quickly on the phone. Hello, you're on the air. Hello there, Bloomington, something, I think. Going once.
Yeah, I have a question for the doctor.
Yes, go ahead.
Where do people get the Martian alien look form from? I heard you say they look like humans, right?
No, the ones that come down here, what he said was the ones that do come down here, the hybrids that get returned to Earth, look every bit as human as I hope you do, sir.
Exactly. So where did the Martian figures come from?
We didn't mention Martian, did we?
No, but there's lots of people out there that say they're alien encounters. They've seen a Martian instead of a human figure.
Oh, I see. Well, so you mean just to say alien as opposed to Martian, I think. The ones that end up looking somewhat alien don't get returned to Earth. The doctor thinks they may be either disposed of or serving in a workforce.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for the call.
There's actually a reason to think that has logic to it, and that is about the workforce situation. The population is exploding,
Oh, it is. You're right about that. 7 billion, Doctor. Hold on. We're short break. Short break. National number 952-225-5278. You tell me, folks, is this a better way to take over a planet? Or do you expect large saucers, death rays, exploding cities, that kind of thing? I think this is the way you would do it. I wonder when the change is coming.
And again, we'll be back to them as soon as the musical bumper is over, so we do not get a YouTube copyright strike. I had most of these edited out, so hopefully it won't be long.
Midnight in the desert. To call the show, if you're east of midnight, call 1-952-CALL ART. If you're west of midnight, call 1-952-225-5278.
And I've got to get Ross back to work. Sorry about that. First time caller line. We've got it. And it is area code 775-285-5800. If you've never called the show, feel free. 775-285-5800. Or the Roswell entrance. That's area code 575-208-7787. Again, 575-208-7787. Skype, of course, at MITD51 for North America and MITD55 for the rest of the world. Doctor, welcome back. So many people that want to speak with you. Let's go here, wherever here is. You're on the air. On the phone, you're on the air. It says San Diego, I think, or something like that. Are you there? Going once? Going twice? Go on. Las Vegas, you're on the air. Hello.
Welcome from KBET in Las Vegas. Art, I'd like to ask the doctor a question about these insect critters. Are they, what kind of insects could he tell us what they might look like? Are they like bees?
Okay, it's a good question. It's a fair enough question. People try to imagine when you say insectoid, what? Go ahead, Doctor.
Most people describe them as looking like, sort of like praying mantises. They have a triangular shaped head. The eyes point straight down. There's no mouth to speak of, from what I can gather. There's no ears, there's no nose or anything like that. And they're very, very thin. Sometimes they wear robes, of all things. I do not know why, but people will report this every once in a while. And sometimes these robes have like high collars on the back of their necks. I don't understand it. Because aliens don't have a sense, because everything is telepathic, they don't have a sense of music, they don't have a sense of beauty, they don't have a sense of art, literature, they don't have a sense of anything like that. So everything inside is sterile, and the way that hybrids dress while on board is extremely plain. A beige pair of pants for the males and a pullover shirt, a beige dress for the females with 3/4 length sleeves, and that's it.
Okay.
And
how tall are they?
The ones who are the insectoids, the praying mantises, are probably the tallest, and the shortest are the short aliens, at probably about 3.5 feet tall. The taller aliens would maybe be 4.5 to 5 feet tall, maybe a little bit more. The hybrids, the ones who are moving in, are I think around 5'9". Right at the average.
Right at the average. Caller, anything else?
Thank you, Art.
You're very welcome. Take care. Skype, you're on the air with Dr. Jacobs. Hi. Hello? Sherellen, is that right?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Hi, Art.
yeah, that when I say you're on the air, you have to go.
I'm sorry. I didn't know. This is my first time calling on Skype.
Well, welcome. It sounds great.
Thank you. Great. Well, I wanted to ask Dr. Jacobs, who takes care of these hybrids or hybrids when they're here? And, I mean, how do they maintain themselves? Do they have a job? I mean, it's crazy to learn the English language, let alone, sustain themselves here. Who takes care of them, watches them, or whatever?
Or other languages, because it's not just America, right, Doctor?
It is a global phenomenon, and we only talk about it in America because we know more about it here than anywhere else. But they maintain themselves with the tutelage of the abductees. Their abductees' jobs becomes taking care of the hybrids, making sure that they fit into the society, teaching them how to cook, teaching them what an egg is, teaching them all sorts of things about how to live here. It takes a long time. They are very, very, very quick learners. There is no indication right now that they have any other language other than the language of the country that they're in. Here's the oddity. People will overhear gray aliens talking on board a ship. Let's say they're lying on a table and I say, well, what are they talking about? And they'll say, well, they're talking about doing something, blah, 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 blah. But the point is that they're hearing it in English. My guess is that every person in every country hears it in the language of which they speak.
Telepathy.
Telepathically, right.
Yes.
So the question then is there an alien language at all? I mean, how do we get to that? Because whenever you hear grunts and squeaks, you'd think that if they're talking among themselves that they wouldn't be speaking so that the person could understand English and tap into them.
All right.
Well, but what my question is how do they maintain themselves once they're here? What do they do? Do they work? How do they fit into society?
Right. The best way I can say it is that in this book of mine, Walking Among Us, there's one episode in there where a group of hybrids came back to the ship, and there was and they stood around as if it were a cocktail party, except that it wasn't, and they mingled with abductees who had helped them when they were growing up, and they were telling them how well they were doing, and this one woman reported that several of them had jobs. The jobs were essentially interns learning how to do a job. That was their job. And they liked it a lot. It was extremely interesting, and they were really it was really good. It was really fine, and they and all that. But they can do pretty much whatever they want to do. If they want to eat something and they need money to pay for it, they can do it two ways. They can simply go to a bank and ask for money, or go to the abductee and just ask for money, but I don't exactly say ask, I just mean take it.
Remember, they control our thoughts, they control our actions.
Yeah, there's a story in the book where a guy who walks into a clothing store because he was wearing the wrong clothes for something, and he walks out with an article of clothing. He walks right past the cashier who's standing there, and he nods to her. She nods to him. Hey, everything is fine.
Keeps on going.
Right, the woman who was behind the cashier. It did not occur to her that he was walking out with this unpaid for, even though he watched her do it. She watched him do it. So now. How they're eating, I am not sure. I know how they're eating when they're with abductees, but how they're eating alone, we can't tell. Don't know yet. In other words, and here comes a little keg in the works, a little kink in the works, rather. If it was a keg, I guess they'd be drinking a lot of beer. But if it's not, the fact is that maybe they go up to the UFO from time to time to get nourishment. We don't know that. However, we do know that abductees have come to their apartments, made them food, showed them how to make food, showed them how to store food, and all that sort of thing. And we do know that they've gone to restaurants and have eaten food in restaurants with abductees.
Probably going out without paying, just walking past, I'm sure.
Well, if the abductee is there, they will remind them that they have to pay.
Oh, that's right. They're teaching them. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks a lot.
All right, you're very welcome, ma'am. Thank you for calling and using Skype, by the way. Thank you very much. All right, so here's somebody on my computer screen through the wormhole. It says, Art, but how do they get legal identity? They need an ID, credit cards, all the identity stuff that modern society requires. How do the hybrids get that? Fake papers or what?
Right. We don't know that, except that if they learn to drive a car, we know that they learn to drive cars. That's not uncommon at all.
Right.
If they're stopped by a police officer for an infraction, the police officer they over them, they'd roll down the window, and the police officer would think, oh, this person did not commit an infraction. I guess I must have been mistaken, and that will be the end of that.
Another talent that I'd like to acquire.
Right, but other credit cards, I don't know how they do that, or if they just use an abductee's credit card, or if they tell the abductee to use a credit card, or if they just have enough cash on them for whatever they want to buy.
And then I would presume, in the case of the store clerk, for example, that just let them walk out with whatever they've got, the store clerk would have no memory of that act, what she just did. She might later notice something's missing, but she wouldn't even know she did it, right?
That's probably true. She would not have questioned the idea that the person walked out without paying. It would not have occurred to her to question it.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to our first-time caller line. You're on the air. Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Art?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I can't believe I got on.
But yet you have.
Yes, I have. I don't know if they're really questions, but maybe just discussion points.
Okay.
I have two of them here. And the first one is it's a real scary thought. If they can control our minds and everything already, who is to say that there's no way in fighting these aliens, these beings?
Well, wait a minute. That's a good question. Is there any way to fight this at all, Doctor?
I don't know. I keep saying I don't know.
If you don't know, I appreciate your saying you don't know. I worry about people I have on who have answers for everything.
Here is one situation. In order to control this neurologically, the question is, can that be done if a person is wearing a helmet or a hat that covers their entire head or something like that? We don't know that, and there's a guy named Mike Mencken who makes hats, and people swear that they're not abducted if they have these special Velostat-lined hats on. And you can't do that all day long, every day, 24 hours a day, but he might be onto something, and abductees say that works, it works, but even then it's difficult to tell because most abductees don't know when they're abducted. All they know is that they feel tired in the morning, and that's it. But we need intelligent people who can sit down and think of the weaknesses of this phenomenon. Now, this is a clandestine phenomenon. It is secret. It is kept secret from everybody. Nobody knows. That is extremely clever, extremely good. It allows them to do everything. But in a way, it also shows weakness. There's a weakness there.
Somewhere. I hope so.
We can only hope.
Yeah, we can only hope is right.
Exactly right. And so what that weakness is, we're not sure of, and we need to have people who are a lot smarter than me, and lots of them, who can sit down and deal with this problem. And right now, there's a handful of people who are concerned with this in the country. It's awful. It's astounding.
I totally hear you.
The scientific and academic community are concerned with it.
Caller, anything else?
Yes, I have another one here, which goes back to some of your older shows.
Sure.
We've had shows with time travelers come and speak. Maybe the next time you have one, maybe you can bring up this subject, and maybe they know something from the future that we could use in our defense.
Well, I'll keep that in mind, should I run across a time traveler. But what the doctor is describing is insidious. It is simple. It is effective. Again, they're not physically strong creatures, actually, but they've got a planet of 7 billion people to control. Now, how do they do that? Well, I think all evening long, the doctor has been explaining that. The only question that I have is when the change comes. And I guess that's just plain has to be open-ended, right, Doctor?
Anything. It could mean just suddenly a superiority in numbers. That the number of them are so great eventually that they just naturally take over, and maybe it's only a 10-to-1 ratio or a 100-to-1 ratio, and they could easily take over in some way. We don't know the whys and the wherefores of this. The only ones who know that for sure are the ones who are the leaders.
Professor, is there any indication they can control large numbers of people, or is it one at a time?
It's well, it depends on what you mean by large numbers. In other words, on board a UFO, there might be maybe as many as 50 abductees. Well, in a room, there might be 100 tables, might be 100 abductees. All of them are under control. Now, are they all under control by smaller groups of gray aliens or whatever? That's hard to tell. But they can control at least abductees en masse. Can they control humans en masse? Don't know. Once again, we don't know.
Okay.
My guess is they probably can eventually.
All right, and for the record, I've got what I consider to be a legitimate time traveler coming up pretty soon. On Skype, you're on the air with Dr. Jacobs. Hi.
How you doing?
Doing okay, sir.
Question for Dr. Jacobs.
Okay.
What about people like in prison that are locked down in a cell? Has anybody ever been abducted?
Yes, I do get letters from abductees who are in jail.
Really?
For personal reasons, I don't usually respond to them.
I understand.
What's that?
I understand.
Well, no, this is personal reasons that have to do with my family and so forth.
Okay.
Not my immediate family, but but they have. The question is, when there's a guard who comes around to check to see whether they're there or not, is there a small gray alien standing in the cell controlling that guard who looks in and says, "Oh, nothing here, everything is fine, no problem," and goes on to the next cell? That would be the only way that they could do it, because there's checks all the time, I would assume, to see whether the prisoners are asleep or not and all that. If they're missing during the daytime, that would be noticed.
Indeed so. All right, I want to move along here. Atlanta, Georgia, I think you're on the air with Dr. Jacobs.
Hey, Art. I just had a small request. If you could maybe play some pan flute music that I know you probably have.
I do have. Anything else?
No, that's it. Just many Roswells to you. Love the show. First time caller here.
Aren't you at all concerned about the possibility of, I appreciate your music request, don't get me wrong, but we're talking about the invasion of Earth here, so.
Right.
But you'd like to hear some pan flute music before that happens.
Well, to me, my mind goes straight to, like vampirism or, something like that, where they're, like preying on us.
Well, I think thank you, Dr. Jacobs does not think that they have good intentions toward us. Now, what they will do with us and the world after the change comes, so I'll change, we have no way of knowing. Right, Doctor?
That's exactly right. They don't tell abductees, and therefore we don't know. Abductees, hybrids who live here don't know any of this stuff either. All they know is that their task is to live here. They're concentrated on being human, on living here, on meeting people of the opposite sex, of this and that. They're humans for all intents and purposes. And but why they're here that's their task.
All right, here's a big one for you. So let's assume an integrated hybrid, right?
Yeah.
Is that hybrid likely to, I don't know if I ought to use the word fall in love with, obtain an Earth person for a mate? And if so, where does the reproduction go there?
Yeah. The question is this. If a hybrid mates with an abductee or a non-abductee,
Mm-hmm.
What is the offspring going to be like?
Yes.
And so far, I have not uncovered any instances of that. In other words, abductees have not come to me and said that they're pregnant from a hybrid. To me, but I know that this is what I wrote years ago in the Threat, in my second book, The Threat. What we see here with human-like hybrids who are not going to be living here, but who are around abductees all the time, something I call personal project hybrids. They meet when they are young, and the hybrid takes on a person for life, basically. The personal project. The hybrids themselves said that to one person, you're going to be a personal project of mine. At least that was their interpretation of it. And so, and we know that sex takes place, and we know that the woman does get pregnant, and then the little embryo is removed. And what that does is it bypasses the whole process of having to take an egg and then alter it and then put it back in, and then, but it doesn't alter the process of taking it out. So that does happen. Now, is that going to happen with hybrids? I don't know, and it's possible that the children that are born will just live here and just be human and just learn everything normally like humans do. But once again, we don't know that yet.
Doctor, are there procedures beyond the table?
Well, what happens after a person gets off the table is that invariably they go in and start dealing with hybrids. This is a one-note theme, you'll notice. They hold babies. They have to have skin-on-skin contact with babies. Sometimes the babies are really ugly babies, as they tell me, and sometimes they're not bad-looking babies. They're kind of cute. When they play with, they teach little kids how to play. Also, with little kids have their own toys that the aliens or the hybrids made for them. The toys, and I actually wrote an article, if you can imagine this, on hybrid toys and games. Of all the darn things in the world to do, I mean, it's such an odd phenomenon, and there's so many different facets to it. I got fascinated by toys. And these toys are controlled by people's minds. The kids can make the little ball fly up in the air and come back down, or other objects go into the air, or they can look at books, and the books have images in them that look like 3D or 4D or 9D or whatever it is, but it looks like reality. And they have all these different sort of things that they play with.
Well, I guess learning control begins early.
Right.
By the way, my wife tells me there's no such thing as an ugly baby. I know better than that. Logan.
No, there is. If you see a baby that's half alien, half not, you'll know right away.
I understand. Logan, you're on the air.
How's it going? Can you hear me okay?
You sound way too loud. Back away a little bit.
Okay. What about now?
Better.
I have two questions for Dr. Jacobs.
Okay.
The first one is, if this is true, then surely our government and several others know about it. What are they doing, to his knowledge, to combat it?
Very, very good question. Pause now, please. Doctor, what he says is a good point. Surely the government must be, at some level, aware of the agenda and what's going on. What do you say?
Well, I've gone round and round about this for years and years and years and years. And the answer is, I have not yet been convinced, although some people have put up good arguments that I hadn't thought of before, but I am not yet convinced that they know anything at all about this subject. I keep getting information about how the government is studying UFOs and compiling data on UFOs. Well, if they're compiling data on UFOs, they have no idea what they're doing, and they know nothing about the subject whatsoever, because they're concerned with the outside shells of objects as opposed to what's going on inside. Who are the beings inside? What are they up to? Why are they here? What's the program? This and that. That's the only thing that matters. Why are they here? How their propulsion, where they're from, how they get here, all that sort of stuff. That doesn't mean anything. The only thing that has serious meaning to our existence is what's in these beings' minds. What are they going to do with us? Therefore, they would be debriefing abductees 24/7. They would have been doing it for decades.
Right.
And we have no indication that that's going on at all.
All right, Logan, anything else?
Yeah, my second question was just if we were going to try to do something about it, what should our scientists here on Earth what kind of technology should we be researching to attempt to anything?
Okay, all right. Well, it's a good question. I'm not sure it's going to get a really good answer, but...
Well, we can't do anything about technology. Their technology is too advanced. There's no way that we can do it. The only thing we can do is figure out how to stop abductions. Do it on our level. Figure out who abductees are, if that's at all possible, because most abductees don't know that they're abductees. And it's a secret phenomenon. It's clandestine, and the first way you keep it secret is by keeping it secret from the abductee, obviously.
Sure.
So, but they have to figure out a way to protect abductees, and that would mean protect everybody. So, since they don't know who abductees are, then everybody in the whole country, everybody in the entire world, or whatever, would have to wear a special gear, a special thing on their heads, whatever it is, to prevent the abduction phenomenon. That's the only way that I can think of it. I have trouble working a toothbrush. So I'm not a technician. I'm not a scientist. I don't know what they would come up with. But the fact is that.
Well, Doctor, I'll see if I can find an abductee to help you with that tooth problem. You're on the air. I don't need to hear that.
He's right, but who cares?
Yeah. Hi there. You're on the air with Dr. Jacobs.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Great show, Art.
Thank you.
Within the last approximately 15 to 16 years ago, I had an opportunity to talk to an individual who was a personal bodyguard to an extremely high federal official.
Okay.
And I talked to this person after midnight at this friend's location somewhere here in California. And first we talked to, and by the way, I'm not going to give you specifics, but I'm going to whet your appetite with facts. I asked this individual how he thought the U.S. would do if we ever engaged in a major war like Russia or China. And his response was...
hold his response, okay? We've got a break. We've got to do it, so hold that thought. And you can lay it on us when we get back. In the meantime, here's some flute for you, The Takeover. From the high desert in the great American Southwest. You're listening to Midnight in the Desert. I'm Art Bell.
And again, we're just on mute until the show returns to speaking to avoid a copyright strike.
stays in the dark. Call Midnight in the Desert at 1-952. Call ART. That's 1-952-225-5278.
And of course, the Skype entrance points, MITD51 in North America, MITD55 rest of the world. And the first-time caller line, let me keep giving that out till I can enlist Ross to help. Area code 775-285-5800. My guest is Dr. David Jacobs. We're talking about nothing less than the takeover of the world, an invasion of the world, a quiet invasion of the world. No pushing, no shoving, no shooting, just a complete takeover. That's the scary part of it. Caller, you're back on the air with Dr. Jacobs.
Okay, I'm going to backtrack a little bit and let you know that this is for real. At my friend's location, the father of this individual who was protecting an extremely high federal official, he had pictures on the wall of his son inside the private jet of this official, as well as on the tarmac at the airport. Multiple photos, right? So I know this is no BS. So when I asked him, what do you think? How do you think the U.S. would fare in a major engagement with Russia or China or both? And he said, believe me, he said, if it comes to a point where they start pushing buttons, he said you would not want to survive. He said the living would envy the dead.
Yes. We know that. Nuclear war, radiation. Yes.
So in the middle of the conversation, this guy never cracked a smile. He was dead serious the whole time. All of a sudden, he changes the subject. He's got a bizarre look on his face and in his eyes, like he got spooked, like he had come in contact with something that literally shook him, rattled him, like shell shock from a combat veteran.
Right.
And he says to me off the wall, he says, if you saw what I saw, your mind would not be strong enough to handle it. And at the time, like approximately within the last 15 years, I said, well, I don't see how that could be because, I'm a combat veteran and I've seen some horrendous things that would drive a lot of people into some, bad, very bad things. I said, I don't see how that could be possible. So he looked at me and stares me once again with a bizarre look in his eyes and on his face, and he says these words. He says, once again, if you saw what I saw, your mind would not be strong enough to handle it. So I said, I just cannot understand what you're talking about. I'm
right.
taking this.
So did he finally cough up what he meant?
So this is the finale. So I said, giving him all the respect, I said, sir, could you give me an idea, a general idea of what you saw? End of conversation, not one further word. That was it. And I am convinced now, looking back, and I've had a lot of time to review this in my mind over and over again, this man was sworn to secrecy. He went to locations around the country and probably around the world that nobody gets to see with this extremely high federal official. And my opinion is he saw the unthinkable, something like from another world that shook him, rattled him, and this man was not the same, and he wanted to tell somebody.
Okay, well, I get it, and thank you for the call. It may well be that he had contact from some sort of alien or some sort of, who knows, but people do get affected like that, and I think that what Dr. Jacobs is saying is that when the change comes, a lot of people are going to have these sudden, what's the right way to put it, epiphanies? No, not really. They're simply going to change their behavior immediately, Doctor?
Well, I think that when the change comes, if we're not in the change already, but when the change comes, it might come suddenly in some way, or it might come gradually. But what it means, I think, ultimately, is that humans will be just relegated to a second-class position, maybe even gotten rid of, for all I know, and that this planet will no longer belong to human beings. It will belong to them for reasons that are unknown. But the thing is about abductions is that they start in very early age, and they continue with great frequency all the way into old age, into probably the late 70s. Mm-hmm. And consequently, it's not a one-stop event. It's a series of events that affects a person's life, whether they know it or not. People who don't know it know that they lead odd lives, that they have missing time sequences of a couple of hours, and they can't account for where they were or anything about it. They know that they've seen dead people have come back to them to say goodbye after they've been dead for 9 or 10 years.
Just one quick question, Doctor. All the people out there listening right now, do you think that any of them are abductees? And if so, listening to you now, do you think they realize it? Do you think they know they're abductees? Do you think they know they're part of this bigger plan? And
well, knowing you're an abductee is big enough for most people. And what happens is they'll read something. And they'll realize, oh my God, this is me. This has been happening to me. Yeah. Now I understand it. Right. Or they'll see a picture. When Whitley Strieber came out with his book Community, which had a sort of a picture of a gray alien, although it was not what gray aliens look like, but it was close enough. It rattles people. Hundreds, thousands of people wrote to UFO researchers saying, I know this alien. I've been with him or whatever. I've had people who told me that they saw that book. They picked up the book to look at it, and they saw the cover, and then they just threw it across the room. They have these visceral reactions.
Listen, Whitley is a very close friend of mine. He's been going through a lot of grief lately. I'm going to have him back on, but I had him on, and he described the entire procedure to me on the phone, and I'm here to tell you, Doctor, what he went through and what he described was embarrassing. It was an anal probe, and he has never heard the end of it, and all the jokes that people have made about it, but he told that story. Nevertheless, he was actually crying on the air. It's very embarrassing, but you want to tell the truth. When you tell this story, you want to tell the truth, and he did.
That's right. He sort of made the anal probe famous, actually, and people do have that from time to time. Once again, we don't know why, what it's for, what they're doing there. One time I figured something. I figured two things out in the actual examination. I figured out that they take their finger and their thumb and they place it at the top of a person's backbone, and they just go down the backbone, finger and thumb, tracing through all the vertebrae, and then with special attention to the coccyx, and then back up again. And I had no idea what that was. It made no sense to me. It happened to Barney Hill, of all people. Mm-hmm. It happened and it's happened hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times.
All right, so many people want to talk to you. Jim on Skype, hello.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Doctor, I have a question for you, and actually, Art, you would be interested in this also as an amateur radio operator.
Okay.
It's been suggested to me that as far as mind control is concerned, that they use radio frequency in some fashion superimposed over all of our television, radio, media of all kinds, and I'm just wondering if you had heard anything about that.
Okay.
I have I've not heard anything at all about that, about future decisions and future events to happen. I don't know why they would want to do that if they're moving in and they go to Walmart and they buy a television, with an abductee.
Okay. All right. Let me add something. I interviewed a number of people about the HARP project, Doctor, and there was a mind control aspect to it. They were convinced, and I think they perhaps even proved that they could bounce a signal off the ionosphere and cause an opposing army to be confused, cause an opposing army to be basically dysfunctional, and obviously an easy kill at that point. So, our government certainly has played in that arena. Very quickly, I think Indio, California. Hello.
Hey, Dr. Jacobs. I just got a quick story of I actually had an encounter of what I believe was hubris at the grocery store. It freaked me out.
Really?
Yeah, okay, so what happened was I just went in to get some, basic stuff. I saw a taller individual that was skinnier and a normal-looking, more human, you could say, individual. The taller one was kind of androgynous. Anyways, they were basically going item by item, even ordinary things, bananas, strawberries, milk, that anybody would know, but they were, teaching them about it. I kind of started following them through the store, you know what I mean? Wasn't really trying to make myself known, but after a while they caught on. They turned around and kind of looked at me, and I left. I didn't really think about it till, I thought about the second time, last time Dr. Jacobs was on, and I was like, oh my God, that was probably a hubrid teaching, as soon as they grabbed the Hot Pockets, I was like, boom, out of there, but it freaked me out.
I wonder if anybody else has seen that. That is classic, right, Doctor?
It is. That would be usual. Yes, that is something that they do. There was one time a woman was going around with her personal project hybrid, and he was interested in the market, even though he wasn't living there. And she was telling him what things were, how they cook them, and he picked up a loaf of bread. He said, "Do you cook this too?"
Yes, exactly. It was that type of situation. I was like, this is knowledge that every human, adult would know.
Should have.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the first thing you have to learn about this couple is the guy from some foreign country that's way out of the way, and he's never been in a supermarket before. He's never seen food like that. You have to eliminate all those things. And,
yeah.
Sounds like it,
though. It just seemed out of this planet. I had no other way of explaining it, but your hubrid theory kind of fit in very nicely.
No, it indeed does. All right, look, again, I'm going to say this again. If there's any women out there who don't mind talking, and or healthcare workers who have seen these embryos disappear around the 10-week mark, plus or minus a little bit, I sure would appreciate an email, artbell@knye.com. That's artbell@knye.com. Mark, you're on the air.
Howdy. One of my earliest memories I have as a young child was a nightmare about gray aliens and whatnot, a face floating above my head, I think in a crib.
Right.
And watching communion completely put a fear in me, and it creeped me out. A 17-year-old was clinging to my mother.
Right.
How could I find maybe a hypnotherapist or regression therapist that's legitimate to try to get this garbage out of my head?
Well, there's only a handful of us around. There's Yvonne Smith in Los Angeles. There's me in the East Coast. There's Jed Turnbull in New York, and a couple of other people. A lot of people have agendas. You have to be very careful. They think that these beings are here to help us, to save us, to heal us, to heal the earth, to heal everything, and they're just wonderful, and they're light beams, and they dance with them, and this and that. And that is just not what people tell me, and or my colleague Bud Hopkins when he was doing this work.
Okay, well, I'm in Northern California, and if there's any way I could try to find someone that's legitimate, I don't know how. That's what I'm worried about.
There used to be somebody in San Francisco, but I think that she sort of gave up on it. There used to be more people who did this work. I had a whole long list of people, and now there's very few people left. And
well, I suppose, Doctor, think about it. If I understand what that caller's saying and what you're saying, maybe the control has already begun, and that's why there are fewer. You thought of that?
It's possible. Several of them died. Some of them just sort of gave up the ghost, so to speak, and just gave up doing it. I'm ready to give up doing it. I've done it for so many years now, and I'm older, and I need to do other things. But the fact is that it is possible that they've got to everybody, including me. Who knows? But it's awful. It's just awful. I mean, if the government knew about this, they would be inviting people to come in and tell them their stories. And there's another problem here. The problem is that most regular hypnotists, people who do hypnosis to stop smoking or lose weight or whatever it is,
right,
they can't do this work. They don't know anything about abductions. They don't know when people are confabulating, saying false things. The abductee doesn't know it either, usually. They don't know how to deal with abductees at all. People think that they do, and they get charged exorbitant fees to do hypnosis and all that, and then nothing comes out, and if something does come out, it's false memories or false information.
Mm-hmm.
And hypnotists don't understand that there's a learning process for abduction hypnosis. You have to know about the abduction phenomenon.
Got it. Very quickly, you're on the air with Dr. Jacobs, and not a lot of time. Hi.
Hello?
Hello.
Am I in the air?
You are.
Oh, yeah. Why aren't aliens from other planets ever spotted by the news media? I have a theory they're not here yet. I never see them on Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles. My theory is they're not here yet.
Okay. Well, you're welcome to your theory. Hello there in Ohio, I believe. You're on the air with Dr. Jacobs.
Yes, I was wondering if these hybrids are intelligent enough to hold positions of authority within the government, and if so, could that be why you don't ever see nothing in the media?
That is a good question.
Yeah, and they certainly would be intelligent enough to hold positions within the government if they had a tremendous amount of knowledge about the society. And what that means is, the question then is how long have they been doing this? How long have they been integrating into the society? I don't think all that long, and the reason is because people didn't start telling me about this until around 2003 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, I wasn't getting these kinds of accounts. And now, as Karen Morgan, the one who's in all three of my books, told me, with her, it's all hybrids all the time. You know, they've gone past the gray aliens and all that.
Doctor, are you really going to stop doing this?
Well, I just signed up a new person to come because I promised her that I would at a conference, but I'm old and I'm tired.
And I'm in sympathy with that. Thank you again for being on the program, and if it is one of your last appearances, I'm glad we got it, and I think you're spot on, as the English would say, and it's really something to go to bed and think about tonight, folks. Dr. Jacobs, thank you for appearing.
Thanks for having me, Art. I really appreciate it.
Take care, buddy. Dr. David Jacobs. And yes, I had him back. And again, I want to ask if anybody out there has experienced a pregnancy of the type we talked about earlier, or you're a healthcare worker who can anonymously, if you must, relate this sort of story. We want to know how much of this is going on. I know of no other way to uncover this, frankly. Anyway, from the high desert to all those time zones, I'm Art Bell. Good night.
Thank you, Art. God bless your soul. Alright, you will stay with us here for just a little while longer as we rock and roll. As we still have about 10 minutes or so, give or take, a minute or two, before the New Day in Dominion sign will flash. Finally got the heater to work, but it's taken a while to kick in. So unfortunately, get a cold runny nose for being in a cold cooled building. Alright, let's run 10 balls while we get a moment. Okay. And let's go over here. Normally I would wait till tomorrow to do any of these pop-ups, but the fact that if anything we can do now would actually still let us maybe get through that fight. So we don't have to pay the penalty of restarting and eating the negative tomorrow. 39. Joink. And do the defense on the fire crown to 10. Okay. The other fired dude we have. Oh, wrong item. Wrong item to click, that is. We wanted the merchant. Little merchant of Venus, so to speak. 27. What we need. That's 28. Here we go, 27. Summon. That up 10. And we'll summon this for 50. Summon. Move that up to 10. Alright, let's see if that's enough to balance the scales back in the dungeon to get through the fight. Or not. And still no. Let's see, I can stop the fight right before the end. Let's see how close it's given it to us. If we're still nowhere near, then we'll just have to let it go. But if we are close, so we'll put it on auto so that way we'll just let them fight. Let's see how close or how far this gets. Oh, if it wasn't for that shield, we might have won. I think that shield's gonna kill it. Yeah, his shield again. Damn it. Keep an eye on the energy bar. Yeah. It's close. It's fucking close. I have about another 3 seconds of energy. Potentially pull it off. Actually, maybe you don't even need that. Go back into the fight. Hold off on his ability until the other guy gets the boost. Then launch it. Now launch. Should be a stronger hit. Okay, this is going to get to closeness. Keep an eye on the energy bars. I'm still alive, so I can get out. I don't know if boosting the health glyph is going to do anything at the moment or not. Because I don't know if it's still going to give them their current ability or not. I only got enough to do 2 there. And I can get 1 off there. But it is close at the moment. And all I want to do is get through that and use the cards for the last 2. So I can have a complete trip. Yes, it is enough. Okay, good. Go. Take a look at the time. Hurry, there's like 30 seconds. Accept. Come on, move it, move it, move it. Move it, come on, give me credit. Accept. Give me the spear, quick. Activate that spear. Give me the pop-up for it. Good. Alright, New Day in Dominion, I don't care, now we made it. By the skin of our skin teeth, so to speak. So I'm taking a look at the time. It is less than 30 seconds. So let's head up to Ventures real quick. It doesn't look like we've had a third join us. And no, we haven't. I'll see if there's anybody new to invite, but that's nope, there isn't, and that's gonna probably be where the thing's gonna pop up itself, going, "It's a new day in Dominion." Type situation. Yep, there it is. I was gonna say there's the pop up. Alrighty, so that moves us to the Thursday day, for of course what you're watching on Friday of Dominion. I'm not going to really do much as we are a little bit over time. We were just trying to stretch it out. Take a look. And then we just, of course, have the regular holiday every day and waiting for the holiday. No new task looks like popped in for the actual server. And our new astral events that we will be handling for tomorrow include the following. 10 soul stones of any hero, that'll be real easy from the tree mail. 10,000 heal points in campaigns. Winning in the campaign twice in chapter number 6. And of course, we're 25 of 70 so far, so 45, 9 trips to go before the end of the week to complete that one. Until then, make sure you do like, share, and subscribe. Get us to those goals of 5,000 views so Boxy will pay attention, 1,000 subscribers so YouTube will pay attention. Again, once they start giving us items, we give them directly to you. Free crypto so you can make purchases in Dominion at coinbase.com/join/Steve Parsley, along with those 2-minute Coinbase Earn lessons to get yourself even more. And until next time, it is always a new world to release the Krakens. See you tomorrow, and thank you for watching.